Hi there, everybody, and thanks for joining us for another episode of the PHNX Suns podcast, brought to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's #1 sportsbook app. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe wherever you get your podcast, and leave us a 5-star review. I'm Lindsey Smith, here with Saul Bookman, Gerald Bourget, and Espo. Saul, you look like you got a lot to say. What's up?
No, I was just miming you.
No, I'm just curious.
Yeah, but I did it
what's on your mind?
but I did it in a happy tone, so like at least one of us is happy today.
Did I sound sad?
You sounded perturbed.
You a little irritated. She's spicy today.
Well, because Espo's like, oh, by the way, I got to tell you guys something. Never mind. I'll tell you guys after the show.
Well,
like,
I realized
okay,
there's 4 seconds left of the countdown.
Now I just get to sit here for the next hour and some change.
Would you like me to say it right here on the show? I'll tell everybody. It involves the show. Would you like to know?
Okay. Yeah.
Next Tuesday, we're going to interview a gentleman from the Washington Post who wrote a new biography on Charles Barkley.
Oh, well, that's
cool.
great.
Yeah. So
you could have spit that out in 4 seconds.
Whatever.
Easy.
By the way, let me say this. The people in the chat chased Emma off.
Oh, no.
They were harsh yesterday. They were rude. And thanks to all of you, we got to deal with Jacob today as our producer.
I don't know what Jacob. I did to you.
I don't know what Jacob did to anybody.
I think it was the joke yesterday in the chat.
Oh, the really bad joke?
That's what
That wasn't even a joke.
It was that.
It was.
Also, real talk, we do have some housekeeping things we kind of want to share with you guys. So if you're here with us live on YouTube, you will know that it is at 3 p.m. Instead of normal 2 p.m. time. Moving forward, our live shows are going to be at 3 p.m. on non-game days because practice makes it a little bit harder for us to start at 2 p.m. And we want to make sure that Gerald is able to get all of the news and notes from practices so that we can share them with you. So just change up your schedule. 3 p.m. is now the new time to come join us here for the PHNX Suns podcast on YouTube.
Talk about practice. Not a game, but practice.
Yeah, I can't wait for all that practice sound, baby. I'm here for it. And now I get to pick on Gerald for it now, which is even better.
Can't wait.
Which also means if you're listening on audio, it'll probably show up on your audio feeds an hour later as well, just because that's kind of the nature of how these things kind of work. So again, just a little bit of housekeeping. Wanted to keep you guys in the loop as to what's going on. So,
by the way, Jay, thank you for always picking up your sister late from school to listen to the show. We're glad we could help you by moving this time.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of practice, let's talk about practice. Gerald, what happened today at Suns practice?
Yeah, so we have
Oh, what? Huh? What?
God bless. We have actual basketball to talk about now, and this man is snoozing.
They shot some, they dribbled some.
Listen, you guys, the NBA season starts today. It's no longer preseason. Get it together.
Basketball's back.
Oh, thank God.
Hold on. Gerald, before we get to this is important breaking news. Icon in the chat says, my wife just said Gerald was in her dream. WTF, Gerald, you're engaged.
Oh, rude, Gerald.
Gerald's been practicing too.
So. Rude.
I cannot take the responsibility of my dream self and their actions, apparently. But yeah, we have actual practice updates today. So Cam Johnson no longer wearing the wrap on his thumb. He's going to be perfectly fine for the opener campaign. Should be perfectly fine.
Thank you, Jesus. It's a miracle. He's healthy for game 1.
Unreal.
Shocker.
Yeah, just wait for this one, though. Go with the next
I'm already dreading every bit of this update.
Oh, yeah.
Landry Shamet officially ruled out for the season opener on Wednesday.
Ow, that hurt my ear.
Let's go.
You need to apologize to everybody listening with headphones in right now.
I apologize for nothing.
He's never going to be on our show, not one time. Like never.
Well, he has all the time to be on our show now,
unless
he's not playing.
Oh my God! Unless Saul is like out of the building when we do record. But yeah, so he's still out with the left hip strain. He did do some shooting, but he said he didn't really take part in much else in practice. And then obviously the big topic was Cam Johnson did not get an extension yesterday. So we got his extended thoughts. So we're going to play you a clip here.
There's layers to that question, right? As I think to a certain extent you have to separate the business side from the personal side. And the fact of the matter is I love playing here, and I think I can put the business side away. Those business negotiations are done. That box won't be reopened for a number of months now, so I can put that behind me, put that off to the side, and focus on playing, focus what I'm actually here to do, and that's what I plan on doing. Negotiations are interesting, and especially when ownership is unclear. Extremely interesting, and you know, once you see that the situation is what it is, you can get over it relatively quickly and just be excited for the opportunities that are presented in front of you.
So I applaud him for being able to compartmentalize. He had told us when we went to his 3-on-3 tournament over the summer that he knows there's a business side and a personal side to these types of situations. So I like that he said it's not going to affect his approach, that he's going to kind of put it in a box and leave it off to the side until the summer when it's time to have these discussions again. But it was interesting, the one little tidbit that he pointed out as far as negotiations are interesting, especially when ownership is unclear. Like that kind of stood out to me a little bit.
Two things. Did he also put his joy and his smile in that box? Because where was that? The vibes just, anyways, I'm not going there.
Yeah.
I actually, the people asked for it, and today I released the first in the Tinfoil Hat Club series, and I talk about it. I think there's one person to blame for it, and his name's Robert Sarver. You can go find out why by watching the Tinfoil Hat Club.
Yeah.
That's on Twitter.
That's called a shameless plug. It's on YouTube as well, if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I have mixed thoughts about this situation. It's not the end of the world that they didn't get something done, but I do think it was a missed opportunity. I wrote about it on Go PHNX. But the way that the salary cap is going to spike in 2025, even if they try to smooth it, you're looking at potentially, even with smoothing, like up to 75% larger salary cap than what they have now. So in 2 years, Cam Johnson's extension is not going to be significant at all. So even if they had overpaid, like it wouldn't be that bad. He's a two-way player. He's an interchangeable wing. He's an elite shooter. Like guys like that with that skill set are at a premium in the NBA right now. And I think that they did themselves a disservice where they're probably going to have to pay more to keep him now next summer in restricted free agency, because someone's going to throw him an offer and it's going to be for more than what was projected. And I have heard, you know, we saw a report yesterday that Cam wanted 4 years, 85 mil. The Suns offered 4 years, 72 mil. I've heard that they didn't even go to the 4 year, 72 mil mark.
Which that right there points to the ownership situation.
It could.
Like, that or James Jones is very lost in the way that he's approaching this.
I will play devil's advocate for a little bit, if you
So
will.
you're advocating for Sarver?
Listen, you know, Mikal Bridges, you know, is an Iron Man of sorts. He played every single game. He earned every bit of that 4 year, $90 million contract. If you compare the two, Cam Johnson's not in the same category because he doesn't play as much, and that's just what it is. He's injured often. You know, he's not as consistent as you like him to be, except from three. And even when he seems to get going, something inevitably gets in the way, usually an injury, that prevents him from getting to that level. So I can see a little. I can see a little bit of a reason why you would not want to pay him, you know, a 4 year 80 or 4 year $90 million contract, because it's just you're concerned to, like, what am I going to get? What is the real Cam Johnson? And am I ever going to get the real Cam Johnson for more than 70 games in a season? I don't know.
I understand the injury concern, but I think from a playing standpoint, you could say the same thing about Mikal Bridges. You don't know what you're going to get with him offensively. You know what you got with him defensively. There's still a lot of questions about his offensive game. I think if you had gone $80 million for Cam, or even 82.5, you kind of met in the middle there. You're still paying him less than Mikal. He wasn't asking for Mikal money, and with the salary cap going up, you know, you're now risking that another team out there next summer is going to offer him 90, 95, 100, 105. Who the hell knows? Because desperate teams do stupid shit, right? Mm-hmm. This isn't like DA where you knew he was slotted in for the max, and if somebody offered him that, you just matched it. This now becomes a face-off between these two sides where you could wind up having to pay him significantly more than you're paying Mikal Bridges, which is a big risk that you're taking. If you think this guy's good enough to be your starting power forward and you didn't even want him to compete with Jay Crowder for the spot, then you should be willing to invest in him at this point rather than roll the dice.
See, that's my biggest thing. Like, obviously, we've heard reports that the whole Jay situation was wanting an extension and wanting to start, right? But if you already told Jay and he knew he was going to come off the bench for you and Cam was going to be his replacement in the starting lineup, that means you're investing in Cam in some capacity, right? So you think he's worthy enough to invest in as far as throwing him in the starting unit over Jay Crowder, but not worthy enough to invest in to lock in long term?
Right. And that's
confusing.
And that's something that good teams just don't typically do. Like, I get that people think, okay, he's unproven as a starter because he only started 16 games last year. But he's unproven as a starter because you had a really good starter in front of him. He didn't get that opportunity. Now he's going to get it based on what we saw last year, based on what we've seen in the preseason, based on everything that the eye test tells us about the skills that Cam Johnson has. Are we just supposed to ignore all that and how he should fit with this team? Like, I don't get it.
I don't really judge him on whether he's a starter or not. I really don't. I don't really care about that. I just care about what he does on the floor. That's all I care about. Whether he's with the starting unit or whether he's with the bench. And I tend to lean the direction of he needs to prove himself. He needs to put an entire season together that you can look at and say, okay, yeah, this is worth this amount of money. Because again, to Espo's point, what's more valuable? Somebody that I know is going to give me one of the, Mikal Bridges is a premier defender in this league. He's a premier defender, and that got him the 490. Like, Cam Johnson is a premier 3-point shooter, and that's about the only thing that you could say that's an elite level from him. And it's not like he's a pull-up jump shot 3-point shooter. He has to get things created for him on the wing. So I don't see how he's elite at anything, at any one skill set that would give him the 4-year 90 or 4-year 80 yet. That's why I would tend to hesitate on giving him that money. I would.
Look, if this were in a vacuum, I could understand that. But after you did this to Deandre Ayton, to go back to the well and do the same thing this year starts to look like that's your modus operandi for business. And that's going to scare off people because that says, I don't value my own talent, especially with they don't really want Deandre Ayton. They'd like to jettison him and get somebody that could play center for 10 to 12 million. Now you're saying, well, we're not willing to pay Cam the money. Okay, so in your assessment, your guys for the future are just D-Book and Mikal Bridges that you believe in. There's just a problem here. If they had just signed Ayton and then wanted to play this with Cam, I could understand it. But now you're setting a pattern, a standard. And if we're to believe James Jones is fully in control, that worries me. Now, I don't know, but that worries me.
There's, somebody in the chat said that Cam is replaceable. Do you guys believe he's replaceable?
No. And because there's so much more that goes into it than just what Cam brings to the basketball sense. Like, the NBA incentivizes teams and gives them the option to pay their own guys to keep them sooner and for more money than other teams are allowed to. It's built into the way these contracts are structured. So, okay, if you're talking about Cam Johnson is replaceable, well, guess what? If you were trying to trade him, it would be easier to trade him if you signed him to an extension because he's still trade eligible. Now, if you're going to restricted free agency, you have to worry about sign and trades, all the BS that we dealt with Deandre Ayton last year. And if you re-sign him, or if another team signs him to an offer sheet and you match, then you can't trade him for a certain period of time. And he has veto powers on a trade. So, like, you're not giving yourself more flexibility by not re-signing him. If anything, you're giving yourself less.
Yeah, I have one question about that because I was a little bit confused about it last night when Wade and I was talking about it with some of my friends because because I've heard a lot of people say, well, maybe they're keeping their options open for like a bigger trade come trade deadline, and Cam is a part of that. Does having Cam not extended and going into restricted free agency next summer make him easier to trade at the trade deadline, or does having him locked in an extension make him easier to trade?
Some teams,
or is it just dependent on which team?
It just depends on which team, I think, because
they keep the bird rights, right?
Yeah, not only
but
that,
then that team has to go through restricted free agency with him, and that's not fun.
But also, like, you can kind of view it as an expiring contract as well, right? Like if they maybe they want to move a piece. And maybe they like Cam, but, and if the money's right, they'll re-sign him. But if they don't, then they don't feel like they're going to lose out on much because maybe they get some draft capital in return or whatever. Like, I think every team's a little different in that situation. I couldn't say one way or the other whether I think, him not signing a contract is truly the best deal or the worst deal.
Right. It depends on what team would be trading for him, but I do think teams would rather trade for a guy that's locked in. If they're trading for him and they know that he's going to be a restricted free agent, then they're dealing with the threat of other teams making offer. They're dealing with the threat of having a limited window to figure out how much we actually want to pay this guy. There are a lot of complications with that. Whereas if he were on an extension, I feel like what you're trading for. The monetary figures are all there. You don't have to deal with restricted free agency. I feel like that's a little bit easier to navigate. And we should point out, he's making $5.9 million this season no matter what. So this extension doesn't kick in until next season. Mm-hmm. So as far as the monetary amounts, it doesn't affect that.
Again, like I'm cool. Listen, I think that he is the type of player that, listen, he was already hurt in the preseason. He's been injury prone in his career.
Say that though.
How can you not say that?
Because injury prone implies that it's things that like where his body breaks down. Like we've seen guys like Anthony Davis. Those are injury prone guys. Like they get hurt, contact, non-contact. All of Cam's injuries have been taking a shot, like a shot to the leg or a shot to the wrist. Those have been the biggest injuries in his career. So durability for sure. I would say maybe that is a more apt concern because he is going to be a 4. He's going to be banging with other dudes in the paint. Like that's the nature of his matchup now. Don't laugh at that. That's not a
fucking Jacob laugh. I didn't laugh. I held it in and then fucking Jacob started laughing.
Gentlemen,
let me rephrase. There will be a lot of physicality in the paint this year for young Cam Johnson. And so, yes, durability might be a concern, but it's not like he's a guy that's getting all these non-contact injuries or that he's just not holding up. Like, I think he's had some bad luck, and I think that factors into how much time he's missed.
Isn't that part of being injury prone?
I mean, no. Durability and injury are different. If these are things that, like, what happened to him in that Knicks game was a fluke. He got kneed in the thigh, and it was a bone bruise. Like, that's not injury prone. That's bad luck right there. Like, that's a bruise. It's not like, oh, his knee or his hips, like we thought were going to be the problem with him. But what I going back to that, oh, he's replaceable, I hate that because that's so much easier said than done. Right. Are there better power forwards than Cam Johnson? Yes. Are they attainable? No. Likely not. So yeah, you could upgrade there, but then you're getting into a tier of guy that other teams don't let go because they're great players. So like, you've got to understand if you keep him at the right price, which I think that range was the right price, you then can deal him because it's easier, and you've retained your young talent and set a standard business.
But I think the chat is kind of agreeing with our discussion right now as it is, because it's widely 50-50. And a lot of people I would even wager to say are saying like, well, he does get injured a lot, and there are question marks about what he's going to be able to provide on a consistent basis. And because of those, that's why I'm not necessarily, let's say it is a James Jones thing and he just decided, you know what, I'd rather hedge my bets and see what this guy's going to do for us this year as a starter. I'm not going to hate on that. Not yet. Like, because I want to see that too. I want to see a consistent Cam Johnson this year, and I want to see what he's going to do with the starting 5, because listen, he could come out and he could average fucking 18, 19 points a game, and then you're going to sit there and wish that you really did extend him. Or he can come out and, do what he does and be kind of inconsistent and shoot good from 3 and be an okay player.
I mean, he's missed games, but like, we shouldn't act like he's missing like huge chunks of the season. Like, the most he's missed is 22 out of 82, which is like a fourth of the season. That's significant, but it's not like it's going to hinder him being able to. He's gotten better every year of his career coming off the bench. You think putting him in a starting role is somehow going to depreciate his value, I don't see that happening. And again, if what I heard that they didn't even offer him 4 years and $72 million is true.
Yeah, they didn't even hit that floor.
That's terrible. Like that's just malpractice, because that's the going rate for starting wings in this league. No matter whether you think he's proven or unproven, like someone is going to pay him much more than that in restricted free agency next year. They missed an opportunity to get a guy who wants to be here, who's improved every year for a team friendly price. That's going to be even more of a bargain once that salary cap goes up.
I think there's a couple other things that you have to keep in mind too while having this discussion, because we saw in the chat, and we talked about it too, comparing him to Mikel. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that that's fair to either of those players, because you could also say Mikel probably could have gotten more or deserved more.
Yeah, that was a discount.
Yeah, so I don't think you should compare what Mikel got to what Cam is asking for, because Mikel gave them a team-friendly deal with that one. And then in addition to, if Cam is replaceable, do you trust the people who are making the decisions to actually replace him? Mm-hmm. And just going off this offseason alone and how pissed we've all been and everyone in the chat has been about the fact that literally nothing had been done, do you have faith that something will actually be done in a timely manner? Or is this going to turn into another Jay situation?
I took heat for this on Twitter this morning, but I think it's time we have to ask, are we sure James Jones is him, right? And this year is going to determine that. How does he... does this Cam thing blow up in his face? Is he actually moving DA? Does he make a move to strengthen this team, as we all know and believe that they need to? If he doesn't do those things and they have another first or second round exit, you've fallen short of your own standard. He talks about how every year is a chase for a championship, and that's what he wants to do. Well, if that's your mentality and you aren't even living up to your own mentality and standards, that's problematic, and this will go a long way to defining things.
Right. I'm not quite there as far as wondering if James Jones is him, but I do think there is something to be said for not stringing your guys along in a restricted free agency process that, let's be honest, can be uncomfortable, and it can put a strain on those relationships. Like, as much as DA is here to work and has been focused and by all rights is not going to let this affect him, just like it didn't affect him last year, like there was a big cloud hanging overhead. There were a lot of questions and a lot of storylines and a lot of fans wondering about the relationship with Monty and whether he wanted to be in Phoenix and all that crap. And we've cleared that up now, but it took us a long point to get past that, when we could have been just talking about basketball, when we could have gotten rid of those types of distractions. I don't think that'll be the case with Cam, because in DeAndre's case, he was dealing with a max contract. So there was a lot more at stake in his case than Cam. But like, you can't keep putting your own players through this process, because then that's kind of the reputation that you build for yourself. If you're drafting these guys, if you like the way they're progressing, if you talk about how they're getting better every season and how you're willing to dip into the luxury tax to keep them around, like, we need to see actions to back up those words too.
I'm not questioning James Jones, not right now. I know he hasn't done much in this offseason, and it's been, there's been a lot to be desired, but I just feel like we still have a lot of time to go. There's a lot of moves that can still be made, and there will be something that will happen with Jay Crowder at some point. And and his track record and his history, listen, we got to, whatever way you want to put it, since he's taken over, the Suns have been pretty good. Mm-hmm. And however they got there it's been under James Jones. So I'm not gonna throw him under the bus just yet.
Look,
I'm not throwing him under the bus. I'm just saying I don't think it's out of the realm of sanity to maybe have some concerns.
Mm-hmm. Sure, all. But we've had a shit show of GMs in the last decade before James Jones even took.
But we also know we can't fully blame those GMs either, because they didn't have full control.
James Jones had the same things that were going on under him too.
I don't agree with that entirely. I think
How
James
do you
Jones.
Know?
Are you really going to ask the person that was inside the building?
I was there.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think James Jones had more control than GMs that came before him when it comes to that front office under that specific ownership. You think maybe not entirely, but a little bit more of control.
Well, then, okay, listen. All right, if we're gonna go down this road, if we're gonna play it, let's play it. All right, James Jones comes in, and he was an interim GM, and they also brought in Lance Blanks for whatever reason to try and help guide him or whatever. Like,
no, Lance Blanks was way
or
before.
not Lance Blanks, the other guy.
They brought in
what's his name from the Pistons?
Jeff Bauer.
Jeff Bauer. Sorry, yeah. Sorry, Espo did a Lance Blanks impersonation earlier today. That got me in my head.
That was Lon Babby. Get it on
Damn it, Lon Babby.
Right?
Whatever. Yeah,
Two
whatever.
LBs.
Hey, yeah,
You
two
mixed
LBs.
them
Leandro
up.
Barbosa.
Yeah,
So-
there's a lot of
Bauer.
basketball. Anyway, so like I get it. It's a first year GM. I'm not going to fall in line with this thought that he was just given the keys to the kingdom from day one and that was that.
No,
You know
I
what I'm
don't think
saying?
that was the
Like
case
I think he's done a good job of trying to put this team together and the way he put it together. However it came together, he still got it done, and that's under his purview. And I think that he should get credit for that. And I know, listen, if we'd have got KD this offseason, depending on what we would have had to give up, you know, there still would be half of the Suns fans that say, yes, great job. And there would be another half to say we gave up too much. Like it's always a win or a lose with everybody. So I'm going to wait to see how this goes this season, how this all plays out, you know, because for all we know, this is a 64-win team and they lost one or two little pieces that you could argue or weren't crazy valuable, but, you know, they were nice, like JaVale McGee. And if they start off 20-2, nobody's going to be bitching about James Jones anymore. They're going to be like, oh, I can see why he stuck with this team.
That's not true because it all depends on what they do in the playoffs. It's all that's going to matter in this. And I like to look at this in totality, right? James Jones came in and Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Deandre Ayton were already in place on his roster, right? He drafted Cam Johnson. Great move. He pulled off the trade for CP3. Great move. Nobody's going to deny that, even anybody that's wondering what this is. But then Jalen Smith, Ty Jerome.
He got money.
And he got money. That's another great move. Well, some may disagree, but I am on that boat. That was a great move. Then you look at it and he trades for Landry Shamet. He gives him a contract extension. You know, there's some of these other guys that, you know, have been okay, but didn't move the world. Jay Crowder was nice for the first 2 years, but now he's got a mess with Jay Crowder as well. I'm not saying he's terrible, but I think he's good. I want to know that he's great this year. I want him to make the moves to take that step. That's all I'm saying. I don't think James Jones is a bad GM, but I think we have to look at the reality of it and not just drink the Kool-Aid. Yes, going to the finals, fucking fantastic. Nobody's going to deny that. 64 wins was spectacular. What do you do to build on that? Some would argue year one, fluky. You know, just because the league wasn't expecting it. They didn't know what to see from this team. Lots of injuries, short season, whatever you may say. They played really well last year and failed in the playoffs. All I'm saying is this is a litmus test this year. How do you perform? What do you add?
So like for instance, Hello right now says the Torrey Craig trade was also bad. That's a perfect example of what we're talking about because the first year they traded for Torrey Craig, it fucking worked out and it was awesome. The second time, the very next year, they trade for the same player and it was a shit show.
Yeah.
Like, again, like how you can't always predict how these players are going to react in a system, especially when you see it firsthand and you can see that they've thrived in that system.
But James Jones didn't re-sign him and then traded for him. You know, like what changed between when you decided not to re-sign him and when you decided to reacquire him?
Supposedly it was like an impatience thing.
Yeah,
Like Torrey Craig didn't want to wait around for the Suns to figure out what they were going to do and hopes that they would bring him back.
And
right?
it was the money they gave to JaVale McGee that tied up more than what he was going to get from the Pacers. But I understand your point, and I do think there's something to be said for, like, we can acknowledge that James Jones has done a remarkable job turning this franchise around over 3 years and also questioning, okay, this is where we're at now. How do you, because he's got a lot on his plate right now. He has to deal with the Jay Crowder situation and get any type of rotation piece for the Suns for a season that by all rights, they should be competing for a championship. He's got to help fix the bench if the bench doesn't pan out, if these guys that he's assembled don't look like they can cut it in even meager playoff minutes. And he's got to keep his options open as far as, okay, Cam Johnson extension and restricted free agency next year, maybe hunting for a big fish, maybe Kevin Durant and the Nets season implodes. Like, that's a lot to balance, but he does have to do something this season, because I think we can all agree right now all the Suns have for them is continuity and internal growth, but the internal growth thing is difficult because they just didn't extend a guy that they could have had for $18 million, which again sounds like a lot right now, but man, it's not going to be, it's the going rate for rings. Like DeAndre Hunter just got 4 years and 95 mil for the Hawks. And he has just as many, if not more, injury concerns than Cam Johnson.
True.
I'm not saying they're the same player, but
Tyler
like
Hero getting his deal.
Right. Like these guys are getting big money because teams and their players and their agents are looking ahead to that spike that's coming in a couple of years. They're already aware of this. And so as crazy as it sounds, like if Cam had gotten Mikal Bridges money, it's not the same as what Mikal Bridges got a year ago compared to where the cap is going. So
I'm with Coach MB on this. When Jock Landale averages 16 points a game, what are we going to say about James Jones?
Listen,
there?
a lot
That's
of
right,
this,
baby. That's right.
Yes,
I mean,
he's not going to off the bench.
Is having context now, right? Like hindsight is 2020. We all probably thought that these moves would have been really great at the time, and now that we know better, it changes our opinions on things, and that's a portion of this conversation for sure. But they're supposed to be 10 times smarter than us.
Right.
They're supposed to know these things better than us. They've got the scouts, they've got the tools and all the things. They're supposed to know better than us.
Well, and look, this isn't a yes or no. There's nuance. There's gray area. All I'm saying is we're going to know a lot more about James Jones by the end of this year and how it plays out and what moves he makes. You know, the last two trade deadlines, he's made minimal moves, didn't acquire people, and you had an opportunity for a title, and maybe it cost you. What does he do this year? Maybe he makes the big move that changes all of it and learns from his mistakes in the past. I'm just saying this is a year that we learn who James Jones is.
Right. And I agree. And I do think, though, not getting Cam for $18 million a year, if that's the case, that they didn't go that high, that's crazy to me. I think his value will appreciate. I think they'll wind up paying more for him. They still have the leverage. They can still match any offer next summer. But we've seen how uncomfortable that process can be. I was hoping that they had maybe learned a lesson from the DA situation and been like, we don't want to go through that uncomfortable nature again. But we'll see. It's not the end of the world. He's still going to be making $5.9 million this season, no matter what. But it would have been easier to trade him in the future, and you would have had a guy locked in for a very tradable salary moving forward.
Thank God basketball starts tomorrow.
We do have a super chat from Jay. Jay, thank you so much for your super chat. They said, how can we preach continuity and internal growth and do this with contracts? Sad face emoji.
Well,
I mean,
that's a fair point.
it's a question that you can ask. That is for sure. We're not going to come to an agreement on this situation. And I don't know that there's really an agreement that we could come to, because just like the Cam Johnson situation, this conversation is very divided in the chat as well.
I mean, in all fairness, like we could have a new owner here in like 6 months who says, James, you spend whatever the hell you need to spend to get this team to a championship level. And then the conversation is completely different.
Right.
And maybe that is what James needs to be able to make the moves that he wants to be able to make. Maybe he is being held back a little bit.
Give me that billionaire owner, please.
I don't know, but
Jeff
we
Bezos
shall
on
see.
Land and Wind.
All I know is that basketball starts today, and tomorrow the Suns tip off the new season. And the best way to get ready for that is to stop by the grocery store on your way home from work and pick up some Four Peaks beer, so that you have great drinks to enjoy while you're watching Suns basketball. We also have some really cool events that are in the works with our friends over at Four Peaks, so stay tuned for more information. Typically, our members get first dibs on all that kind of stuff. Just throwing that out there. You could also technically watch the game at Four Peaks as well. If you want to take the family out there, grab some food and some drinks and even some dessert.
These two over here.
I appreciate the affirmation. Thank you.
Gotcha.
I appreciate it. It makes me feel like
I mean,
I'm
you
doing a good
posed it
job.
as a question. I assume we need to agree.
I do. Yes, I appreciate it. Just a reminder, though, you do have to be 21 or older to enjoy Four Peaks beer, and we ask that you enjoy responsibly. Have either of you guys looked up what tickets on Game Time would be
give me a second.
for tomorrow's
Well, I can do that.
I was like, oh shit, is this my turn?
Yeah.
Nobody
I
warned me, but
probably-
I'll look. All
I
right,
probably should have asked you, but
40
I figured you're pretty good at it.
$43.
That's not bad
That's
at
not
all.
bad.
For
$43
opening night?
For opening
Wow.
night.
Holy crap.
Wow.
And let's look. It is section 210, row 9.
Okay.
Not awful.
That's
That
not
is
bad at
not
all.
bad at all. So if you guys want to get some last minute tickets to the Suns home opener tomorrow, Game Time is the place to do that. You can save up to 60% on tickets to sporting events, concerts, and so much more when you use Game Time. And the best way to support us is by buying those tickets through the link in the description of this show. We will probably put it in the chat as well. Just make sure that you guys use that link because it helps us out a lot and we appreciate your support.
Gerald, you should be thankful that you were not here yesterday
Why is that?
because Lindsey took us on the longest
no,
Indiana
no.
Jones ride
Hey,
to get to an ad read ever. I felt
what
like
was it?
Gerald, it was a literal like yes or no question.
Uh-huh.
And these two and
No.
Emma made it a whole
It
like,
was-
well, hold
it
on.
was like
what
I-
exactly are we watching
I
here? And then
just
what food are we eating?
read the
and then,
Odyssey
Oh my
for a
God.
whole show. Like, get to the point, lady. Please.
She said, "Hey, can you guys explain nuclear fission?"
Oh, really?
And
That's all I
I mean,
asked.
technically,
And
it
they
was a
just
yes
said,
or no
yeah,
question.
yes or no. Can you or not?
But we tried to explain it. It was just, yeah. it was
You guys
crazy.
tried to explain nuclear fission?
Yeah, that's exactly the way it went. And,
And
Emma,
it went the exact way you
Yeah.
thought
That's
it would.
tough.
All right, Gerald, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
When you're preparing to watch a show on Netflix with food, do you have to pick your show before you start eating, or do you start eating while you're picking your show?
Shit's rewinding.
I pick my show and then I start eating.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See how quickly that was?
that's not a
Do you
yes
see
or
how
no
quickly-
question.
You're right.
No.
You're right. It's not a
No.
yes or no question.
No.
I was wrong. But do you see how quickly he answered that question?
No. You see how quickly he answered that question the way you wanted him to answer that question? That's what it was. We both said the opposite, and then we went on this whole fucking trip on why. Why did you pick that? Why did you pick that? Here we go. And then we finally got to the reason why she asked that, and it was to get us into an ad read, and we were like, what the fuck does
I
it
just
happen?
needed a simple answer. That's all.
And
No,
I
you're
did
right. You're right.
answer that I
In
liked.
my head, it was a yes or no question, but it wasn't.
And
so my
I
bad.
did give you a simple answer. I said, we don't watch any television. And then you
Yeah.
followed up by asking, well, was that
And
the case
Saul-
when you were single?
Saul followed up by asking that question, not me.
Espo went complete Amish for whatever reason. They don't have any technology in the house or something. We don't watch any
and then they
television. I was
bring
like,
Emma
and that
into
threw me
it.
off. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
No,
You don't watch
listen.
TV at all?
Then they bring Emma into it, and she's like, well, I don't watch shows. And I'm like, whatever the heck you watch, Emma, do you pick what you're watching or do you eat your food first?
Just a lot
I don't
of
care
odd
if it's
questions.
shows
The
or
crazy thing
podcasts
is-
or YouTube or whatever.
I don't even remember what ad we were trying to get into. How did we wind up
Anyway-
down this again?
Anyway,
know.
what we're going to do now is we're going to talk season predictions because,
Hey!
again, Suns basketball starts tomorrow. So let's do that. First and foremost,
Yeah!
win total. How many wins do you guys
It was 'cause we're playing
predict
the
the
Mavericks.
Suns
That's why
will
I'm doing
have
the
this
goods.
upcoming season?
51.
Okay.
54.
I believe I
I'm
said 54.
54.
Oh, no, I
thought
said 56. I think I said 56.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I was 54. Why 51?
I feel like
He hates James
you-
Jones.
Yeah, I hate James Jones. That's what I said last segment. God, you should go on Sun's Twitter and just hang out there instead on the show.
Why do you hate the Suns, Espo?
You're not a fan. Well, anyways, I feel like the West is going to be super competitive. I don't think we're going to have a team over 54 wins in the West. I think the Suns are going to be right in the mix, but I think they're going to be willing to sacrifice a few regular season wins to be ready for the playoffs. So I'm thinking 51 is about where they net out.
Okay. I just feel like 54 is a safe bet, like 10 less than last year, but not too far of a drastic drop off. I think it's realistic.
Mm.
That's my thought process.
Yeah, I
Saul, you think it'll be better?
I think they'll win 56 games. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people, including themselves, because the bench is going to surprise people. I think I do believe in what Jock is going to bring to this team. I really do.
I'll take 16 points per game.
Yeah,
every
I mean
night.
that's not going to happen.
No.
But yeah, like
I would take
listen,
that
if he
in a
drops 16
heartbeat.
points per game, fuck a Cam Johnson contract. We need to talk about Jock Landale's contract.
I mean, it'd be pretty great.
So also a friend of the pod.
Mhm.
And you know, I like 56 wins. I think that's a nice safe number. It's 8 less than what they did last year, which was a historical season.
Mhm.
I don't think they'll repeat that. And but I think they're methodical and good enough with their starting group to at least get to 50 wins easily. And then the other 6, I'm taking a flyer on that. They're going to make a move that's going to move the needle a little bit and provide another little boost, either off the bench or maneuvering the starting lineup somehow, some way. Because I'm not going to sit here and say that everybody is off limits in that starting lineup either. If the right person or the right player comes along, you could be looking at some moves that could happen with a Cam Johnson, even DA, or even Mikal. Like, you just don't know at this point. KD becomes available. Guess what? We're right back to where we were this offseason. And so I'm never going to say never. You never know what's going to happen. That's where I'm going.
I'm going to put the chaps on a little bit here.
Okay.
The asterisk is the asterisk is if they make a move. I'm looking at how this team is now, and if there's no major move, I think they're a 51-win team.
Okay, well then let's get into the next prediction. Will James Jones make a big move or not? Yes or no?
Big move? No. I think he'll make a move. I think he'll find a way to trade Jay Crowder, and then he'll do something else at the trade deadline to shore up the bench a little bit. But I don't think a big move's coming.
I will say yes.
I'm there with Saul. I think
How big is big? Like, I think define big.
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander's the baseline.
Okay.
That's exact. I think SGA. I think somehow Oklahoma City wins a little too much for their liking, and they go, this isn't what we're trying to accomplish here. SGA, let's get you to somewhere that you can actually make it to the playoffs.
Listen,
and we get capital.
If James Jones does that, I will absolutely 100% apologize for every single thing and question I had on today's show.
Yeah, because that's the kind of answer. That's a definitive answer. He makes the move. He goes all in. He gets the guy that could put you over the top. I think I have faith that that's where we're headed.
Okay.
But history tells us maybe no.
I'm leaning more towards Gerald's opinions on this one. I don't know that it will be. I don't think it is a big move. I think there are moves that will be made, but I don't think it'll be a big move. That's where I'm at. Okay. With that in mind, playoff results. How do you think the Suns will do in the playoffs?
That's the hardest one to predict right now
and it feels really gross to predict it too, because you want to say they're going to go all the way and win it, but then there's like a slight little hesitation there.
When I'm talking about them making a big move, so all these have to go in succession with each other, right? I said 56 wins. I said that they'll make a big move, which would lead you to believe that they should have a much better playoffs than they did a year before, and that's where I'm going with this. I think that the Suns will make it at the very worst back to the Western Conference Finals based on the second portion of my answer, which was that they're going to make a big move.
This might surprise you, but even without that big move, I think they make the Western Conference Finals. If CP3 is healthy. Big if. That's a big if, but if he's there, I think they make it back to the Western Conference Finals even without a move. There's enough talent in that starting lineup to be great in the playoffs, even especially rotations shrink in the playoffs. So if you've got one of the better starting fives and everybody's healthy, you've got a really good chance. Man. I think that's where they are.
Some of these are going to be awful when we listen back to them in April.
But I'm kind of in the same boat as you guys though, and I do think that putting the ball in Mikal and Cam's hands more this year is going to save Book and Chris Paul for the playoffs. Even if they're not sitting out games, I think it'll save some energy. I could see this team winning a title, but I'm going to say Western Conference Finals.
Do you have confidence that Chris Paul, either by himself or by Monty, will be able to not play the amount of minutes that he played last year and the year before? This season?
I don't know.
Because in the preseason, it sure the hell didn't look like it.
I mean, he played a lot more minutes than like he's played in the past last season. Like it was much higher than it's been in recent seasons, which is an alarming thing that was brought up. He played 32.9 minutes. He hasn't played that many minutes since 2014-15 with the Lob City Clippers. Like that's a lot, but I do think it's not just the minutes, it's the toll that he has while he's playing those minutes. Because it seems like such a small thing, but bringing the ball up the court, especially with the way that defenders guard him now, making him zigzag all the way just to get to half court, like it does take a more physical toll. So I think putting the ball in Mikal and Cam's hands and just letting them bring it up, that could save him a little bit of burn in every single game. I think it'll probably be around 31, 32 minutes again, and then probably go up again in the playoffs. But as long as he's not taking that heavy toll, maybe missing a game here or there, I think it'll be okay.
Yeah, well, it's going to depend on Monty pushing the issue too, making the system where Cam and Mikhail are expected to bring up the ball and those kind of things. We'll see if it can happen. That everything's predicated on that. If CP3's hurt and you have to have Cam Payne as your point guard for any extended minutes in regular season or playoffs,
you're going to have a bad time.
You're in trouble.
I will say this. I'm okay with the Suns winning 48 to 50 games this year if it means that Monty finally starts to try to prove a point every now and then, because like, listen, Booker and CP3 can basically do whatever they want. And there are points, listen, in that playoff series, that was just atrocious basketball. It just was bad. And Chris Paul was a non-factor. He was damn near almost a liability at points. And and Monty refused to make any adjustments to that. Like, at some point, you even have to hold the star players accountable for what they're doing and how they're hurting you on the court. I hope that Monty learned that lesson last year. I'm not saying Aaron Holiday would have answered all the prayers and he would have saved the Suns or anything like that. But damn, you got to take some chances and expose these guys to some situations to where you can at least feel comfortable taking a flyer in some of those games when you're down by 15 or 20 points, just to see if you can get a spark. And that's the thing that bothered me so much about last year's playoffs, is that there's the lack of adjustment by Monty. So to me, I just hope that Monty will learn from that this year, and try to maneuver things away from some of his star players if they're just having a really, really bad day. I think that's okay to say.
Okay.
Lindsey's in mid-season form. All right.
No, it's just this whole thing. It just makes me sad. Like,
Yeah.
Because it feels like, I don't know if we're just being overly negative because we had an off season where the hype was so high and what we got in return was quite literally nothing. That it just feels like there's a cloud over everything. If it was the DA stuff, if it's the ownership stuff, I don't know. I just feel like there's such a cloud over the Suns right now, and I don't love it. And I feel like I find myself leaning into that. Like, I'm over here thinking, oh, second round bounced. Like, and I don't know if that's just because everything feels a little more heavy because of all the narratives, or if that's genuinely what's actually going on.
Take a trip with me. Let's get in the DeLorean, hit 88, and go back to the middle of October last year, right? Probably beginning of November. This team's sitting at 1-3. And I remember having the panic button on set and wondering, well, was last year, the finals year, a mirage? Like, basketball's gonna fix this. If they're gonna be good, they're gonna play well. We're all gonna get past the trauma that was this offseason, right? If they struggle, it's gonna become a self-fulfilling prophecy that, oh, maybe this all was true. The KD stuff did a disservice to everybody because we all started having pie in the sky dreams. You know, we had caviar dreams and champagne wishes, and now we're eating, you know, at Whataburger. And there's nothing wrong with Whataburger, but it ain't the champagne and caviar.
I don't know. I like it's easy to feed into the negativity and stuff like that, but I think it all goes back to the failure of the entire system. Not just one or two individual players. It was everything. The way we lost in that 7-game series to the Mavericks, like, was completely opposite to what we had seen the previous year and a half. Like, everything was structured, everything was consistent, the vibes were high, and then all of a sudden they just all fell apart. It wasn't good. We got guys yelling at coaches coming off the bench, and it was a disaster. And then everything after that was a question mark, and it continued to be a question mark all the way up until tomorrow night. It will still be a question mark, and how these guys respond. Listen, it's going to make everybody feel a million times better if they come out and absolutely mollywop the Mavs tomorrow night and be like, listen, that shit was a fluke. We knew it was a fluke. It was a rough one. So
if it goes the other way, board up the windows and call the fire department. Because tomorrow night's going to be rough if that happens. And Hello asked in the chat if the Phoenix Suns are the best team in the NBA thing will die. Hell no! If they win tomorrow night, that's coming right back out.
Oh boy. But I do think that's important to this whole discussion. That negativity you're talking about, Lindsey, is that like that's what comes with heightened expectations. Like it's easier in a lot of ways to be a fan of a terrible sports team than it is to be a fan of a good one, because the losses hurt a lot more when you're that close to the precipice and you fall short. And I think that's what a lot of people are dealing with.
I think they're going to beat the brakes off the Mavs tomorrow.
God, I hope so.
That would be a lot of fun to watch.
Okay.
I can't wait to shit top all those fucking Mavericks fans too when they come into our chat.
We
we got
keep
nowhere else to
going.
go.
Prepared to take it too, though.
Yes,
We took it pretty hard last year.
Because Mikhail did point out a good thing in practice today. He said he was asked, "Is there any way to not think of this as a revenge game?" And he said, "Well, I'd rather have the series than one game at the beginning of the season." But so even if we win tomorrow, they're still gonna be dishing it out, and understandably
Yeah, well,
so.
they hang the banner and get the rings, as somebody in the chat said tomorrow. So.
Yeah, they sure do.
In Golden State, not in Dallas.
We've got a whole bunch left to this show, you guys.
Let's go.
Let's keep
No,
going.
nothing but time.
Does DA finish in a Suns uniform? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
All in
So
agreement.
he's got the veto powers,
Yeah,
and he
and the-
can't be traded to the Pacers for a year or so.
Okay.
And you're not going through all that hassle to then just be like, we're dealing you, surprise.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't see that.
Does Devin end up top 5 in MVP voting again this year?
No.
Okay. Who from the Suns will be
I'm
a
a little
part of
surprised you answered
All-Star
that.
Weekend?
No,
Are you?
I am.
I'm
Well,
a
I
little
mean,
surprised that you said no as well.
I think Devin Booker is an all NBA caliber player, absolutely. But last year, the biggest part of his case for both MVP for all NBA was that he was the driving force behind a 64-win team. I think we all think that they're going to take a step back regular season. So I think that'll hurt his case to be in that conversation.
There's a better chance that he is NBA Finals MVP than he's regular season MVP this year.
Okay.
Okay. I could
I would
see
not
that.
be mad at that
I can see
at
that.
all.
Not even a little bit.
Okay, who from the Suns will be a part of All-Star Weekend? Like a participant,
Okay.
not just there.
Cam Johnson. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Cam Johnson will do the
Three-point
three-point contest.
I
for
agree
sure.
with that.
Freaking better after last year's disgrace.
I'm going to say CP3 does not get the nod this year because I think Jamal Murray will.
Okay.
And I think Devin Booker will be there. And I think Deandre Ayton will make his very first All-Star appearance this season.
I would love
That'd be
that for
cool.
DA.
I agree with you, Cam, DA, Book, in the places you said. Does Jock qualify for the Rising Stars International team?
I
think
Yes,
he
because
is
it's
second
one in
year.
2
Only-
years.
It's only his second year.
It's
Oh,
year
let's
1
go,
and 2,
Jock.
right?
Let's go.
If he qualifies,
Are we
I'm
gonna
putting
make this
Jock
a
there.
campaign?
It's in Chicago, right?
No, it's in Utah.
It's in-
Oh,
It's
Utah.
Yeah, no, it's in
Salt
Utah.
Lake.
Remember, we talked about that.
Damn it.
The hottest club in Utah. Sorry. Anyways, there is none. All right.
I've seen a couple people in the chat bring up Mikhail. Do you guys think there's a possibility Mikhail makes an
Is there-
All-Star appearance this year?
Is there a defensive skills competition I'm unaware of?
I'm gonna go Book, Chris Paul, and then Cam in the 3-point contest. I think that would
I'm
be-
pulling for DA. I would love to see DA participate.
If
in
he's there,
All-Star
that would be
Weekend.
incredible.
Could
That'd
you
be
imagine
awesome.
if we got DA in the All-Star game and Jock in the Rising Stars game, your first and second center involved in an All-Star weekend? That is unheard of in Suns history.
I heard a road trip.
To Salt Lake, here we go.
Let's go, baby.
Okay, and
Only if we can
finally
hang
on
out with
this predictions topic, will this be Chris Paul's last Sun season?
No.
Yes, I think this is boom or bust.
I'm going to say
Man.
no.
That's a hard one. That is so hard because he's got a portion of his contract that's guaranteed next year. If you have an owner that's willing to spend some money, are there other options that maybe you're going to go out there and try to get to replace him? Or if you make a move for SGA, do you really need to replace him at that point anymore? Probably not. Like, it's too early to tell. I'm going to say if I had to make a guess, I would say he would still be back next year.
I agree because I think there's something to be said about, even though it's partially guaranteed, I just don't think the Suns I think James Jones would do Chris Paul a solid.
Well,
regardless of what happens.
What if Chris is asking for a solid so he can go ring chase?
I mean, that's fair too. But if Chris Paul wants to stay here, I would say it's not his last season. Okay. Saul, you want to tell us about Underdog Fantasy?
Sure.
You forget you had to do that?
No, I didn't. I just didn't realize that was going to be the transition. So,
well, she didn't want it to go 10 minutes.
Yeah,
so.
no,
I'm trying to make these transitions quick.
Listen, Underdog Fantasy is the place to be, especially on day-to-day games. Like today, right? The NBA, you can pick higher or lowers with T. You can do a little draft with your little squad. You can do up to 4 people in a draft. It's really fun to use. Tomorrow, we're going to try and do a watch-along, I think.
I think we are going to.
And if we do that, I think before we even start, we'll do a little fantasy draft on the Underdog Fantasy app.
Heck, we could do some over-under too.
Over-under. Like it's just a fun app, man. Like you can bet, against your friends and take their money. Like I did against Johnny Venerable and Bo Brock and Shane Diefenbach, those 3 frauds. Mm-hmm. I stole their money because I'm better at fantasy than they are.
We did an NHL one last night before the Coyotes game. First off, I don't know shit about hockey players, and it showed. But it was a lot of fun because, like, you had Leah, PD, the whole crew was there, and we just threw a link in chat, did the draft, and then it cost $3, and it was a fun way to have some combativeness between
for
us.
sure. So you can search it on the App Store and use or click on the links in the show notes and sign up with promo code PHNX, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code PHNX, and get in on the action today.
And if you guys find yourself tonight struggling to fall asleep because you are just so excited and anxious about the Sun season opener tomorrow night, highly recommend you check out OG's Brands and their brand new Sleep Edition gummy. These are 2-to-1, excuse me, these are 2-to-1 THC CBN ratio gummy, and CBN is a compound that specifically helps with falling and staying asleep. So they're great for nights where you just really need some rest or you're having trouble falling asleep, but you need to get some sleep. And the best part about it is that they come in their new aquaberry flavor. And it's like a little treat. This is like a little night treat.
I'm so disappointed. You missed the best transition possible. We're talking about higher and lower on the Underdog. And you could have said, if you need to feel higher or lower, they've got a gummy
like
for you.
Too close to the last time.
Oh, we don't want to go there. Never mind.
I like where your head's at, but again,
just because you screwed up one time doesn't mean it'll happen again. You need more sleep, and you can get that with the new gummy that they got.
This is true, and it's super great. So again, if you guys want to check them out, we highly recommend them. You can find them online at ogsbrands.com, on Instagram at ogsbrands, or you can find their products at your local dispensary, but you must be 21 years or older to purchase. Okay, so we decided to create some tiers for the league ahead of this year's tip-off. Mm-hmm. And here's what we came up with. Mm-hmm. So we tried to make these a little interesting, a little bit of fun. Saul, you want to start?
Sure, yeah. So this is my tiers. The elite teams, in my estimation, are the Warriors, the Nuggets, and the 76ers, because I believe that 2 of those teams have premier big men that nobody can match up against. And I think that they have a strong cast around them. And if James Harden can ball out, like sometimes he can, sometimes he has not, then the 76ers will be in pretty good position. Same thing with the Nuggets with getting Jamal Murray back. There's a lot of what ifs with those 2 teams, of course, but I do feel like that they have as good a shot as any to get to the finals. And then I got the next tier, which I put the Suns in. I feel like they're on the border of being an elite, but I do think that their bench right now is a little suspect, and so that's why I put them on the second tier. I'm never going to believe in playoff P, so fuck him. And the Miami Heat, to me, are frauds. The Memphis Grizzlies, we'll see how they go. Let's see how they do in year 2 when everybody's ready for them. And then the Bucks, obviously they got Giannis, and we'll see how. Oh damn it, what's his name? Got injured. Chris Middleton. Yeah, we'll see how he rebounds. And the Celtics are frauds as well. I don't like the Celtics. And then that next tier is just a bunch of mid teams. We'll see how the Timberwolves do. The Timberwolves have probably the best chance of that 5 to get up to the number 2 spot into being pretty good. And the Lakers and everybody else, no fucking way. There's just not a chance that they're going to do anything this year. Disney and company and LeBron can go back to Disneyland after the season. That'll end officially in the middle of April.
Minnesota's going to be in that no effing way category.
You think?
Did you see Cat trying to guard on the perimeter the other night? That's going to be a disaster. It's going to be pretty bad.
Interesting.
Who wants to go next?
Well, let's do mine next because mine aren't as exciting as your guys'. We probably should have done mine first. But tier 1, I got the Clippers, Warriors, Bucks, Suns, and Celtics. I do worry about the Celtics with the whole coaching situation, how that is going to unfold with a new head coach basically running the team. But I think all of these teams, you could make a case for them winning a title this year. And a lot of the teams in tier 2, you could make a case for a deep playoff run. Nuggets, Heat, 76ers, Nets, Grizzlies. Like you saw, I think the Grizzlies lost some players last year that were key, and this is kind of more of a prove-it year. Last year, they took a lot of people by surprise. Nets just have a lot of firepower and a lot of talent. 76ers, same deal. Heat are a good basketball team, but I'm not buying them as a contender. Nuggets, I need to see Jamal Murray and MPJ stay healthy for me to buy them. Then tier 3, Raptors, Cavs, Timberwolves, Pelicans, Mavs, Hawks. These are kind of like pesky playoff teams that I think could be good if everything breaks their way, but I got a lot of questions about all of them. And then tier 4, Lakers, Bulls, Wizards, Hornets, Pistons, Knicks, Blazers, Kings. Those are all kind of like play-in, low-end playoff teams that I'm not really buying.
Can you pull my graphic back up? I think I did miss 2 teams. Oh no, I did put the Pelicans in. I missed the Hawks. I don't know how I missed the Hawks.
Okay.
But to me, the Hawks are in between that pretty good and mid category as well. Like, I just think DeJounte Murray and Trae Young together, that could be a really dangerous squad that a lot of teams will not be able to match up with. So
yeah, and they're going to trade for Jay Crowder. So there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, and then the last tier, I've got Spurs, Rockets, Pacers, Magic, Thunder, Jazz. Those are garbage. So that's my
okay. Is yours super fun?
Age before beauty, so you can go first.
Okay. So I
she didn't even
you batted an eye at that, Lindsey. What's wrong with you?
She just ignored it.
Age before beauty, and you were like, okay.
It's fine. What do you want me to do? Espo always throws shade. It's fine. Okay, so I went with kind of a goofier tier list because I felt like if we just did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for all of us, it'd be pretty close to the same thing.
I'm the only one that didn't get the memo.
I'm not saying it's a problem. I just said if we all did it, it would probably be close to the same thing.
She basically said if I just did 1, 2, 3, 4, I'd be really boring.
Here's what I went
It's
with.
fine if you're
I said,
basic, but I'm not.
The teams I want to win, the only one on this list is the Suns.
Mm-hmm.
The teams I'd be okay with if they won. We got the Bucks. We got the Heat, the Cavs, and the Blazers. I don't think the Blazers are even remotely close to being able to win a championship whatsoever. No. But I would like to see Dame win a championship. That's all I'm saying. The Cavs would also, I don't think they're really that close to winning, but I think they're going to be a really good team this year, and it's going to be fun to watch. Mm-hmm. Teams that I would not be okay with if they won a championship. Obviously, the Lakers have to be on this one. Again, I don't think they're going to come remotely close. The Mavs are on here. I don't think that the Mavs really have what it takes to get all the way there. But then these ones, of course, are just me throwing a little bit of shade. The Nuggets would not be okay with that. Celtics would not be okay with that. And the Nets also would not be okay with that.
Why not the Nuggies?
I feel like I just have a little bit of like pettiness towards the Nuggets because they're just bratty.
Yes.
Like,
agreed.
Oh, like the big whole picture. I'm just like, you guys are just like.
Okay.
I think you're talking to one particular show. I feel like this is directed to
just Adam, Linz.
DNVR.
There we go.
Okay, put that back
there we go. Wow.
Great. Now I'm going to get called into HR tomorrow.
We don't have HR.
We don't have an HR. We're okay.
Okay. Can you put the graphic back up? I said, teams I'd like to do well, but not that well. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the Kings, because bless their darn hearts, the Kings need something. I say this every time. The Clippers, because again, if there's 2 teams in LA, I want the Clippers to be better than the Lakers out of spite.
Fair.
The Grizzlies, I like Ja, but I don't like him that he gets more attention than Book, so I don't want him to do that well. Mm-hmm. The Pelicans, I really like Willie Green. I would love to see him succeed over there. but not that much. You know what I mean? And then the Hawks, same thing.
Can we talk about the shade that Jacob threw at the Kings?
By making
Just
the
by
logo
making their
so
logo.
tiny?
Yeah, it's micro. All right.
That's rough.
All right, beautiful. What you got?
Well, thank you, Saul. Finally getting it. I went in a totally different direction with this. I went my ranking of hate to I couldn't give a shit about you. So love, then hate, and I couldn't give a shit about you. So Barkley levels the Suns. The Paxson levels the Lakers, the Mavs, the Golden State Warriors, the Nets. Somehow the Nets wound up in here twice. I'm conflicted about the Nets. The Clippers, Pelicans, Nuggets, Bulls, and Spurs. Screw all of you.
You have a lot of hate in your heart.
The Mario Ellie tier is the Bucks. These are, I don't like you, but yeah, whatever. The Bucks, the Heat, the 76ers, the Blazers, apparently the Nets again, the Raptors, the Grizzlies, the Rockets, the Cavs, and then the Walmart version of NBA teams. You got the Kings, you've got the Hornets, the Jazz, the Hawks, the OKC Thunder, the Knicks, the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Washington Wizards, the Detroit Pistons, the Orlando
Okay,
Magic.
I got a question. And
You can ask whatever you want.
I love how Espo put all 30 teams.
I know, but he doesn't have the Celtics. The
Yeah, he
Celtics
doesn't
aren't
have
up
the
there.
Celtics anywhere.
The Celtics don't count.
Okay, like I understand Paxson hit the three. That was just the dagger of all daggers, and it still hurts to this day. I do. But Paxson himself wasn't like an awful person. He didn't really
don't
do anything.
care if you're a good person
Mario
or not.
Ellie gave us a kiss of death and like totally trolled us. Fuck that guy. Like Mario Ellie to me is a bigger villain than John Paxson.
Come on.
Yeah.
I was nine,
because you could
and
argue,
John Paxson
because you could
ruined
argue,
my world.
because you could argue that both of them took a championship away from us. Because had we beat the Rockets that year, we would have won a championship.
Finals, the shot to win it.
How do you hate Paxson more than you hate Michael Jordan?
Screw John Paxson. Let's make that very, very clear.
That guy was wide
and I
open.
did have the Celtics
Why don't you
on my
say
list.
screw Danny Ainge for not knowing how to play some damn
Screw
defense?
Danny Ainge too.
Okay, there we go. That's better. All right.
And I believe I did have the Celtics on the list, and they were supposed to be one of the Nets on there.
Nets.
So.
Gotcha. Which
Jacob.
one would they be in the Paxson or
They'd
the
be in the
Mario Ellie?
they'd be in the Ellie.
It'd be
Jacob's
it'd be
like,
the
I
Mario
double
Ellie?
checked.
Okay.
Screw Jacob as well.
Like I said, a lot of hate in your heart.
So much hate.
We do have a super chat from Psycho Blue. Thank you for your super chat. Said Basketball Cthulhu is concerned about our chances to compete, but he's eagerly waiting for Sarver to be banished into the void. Thank you for your super chat.
Aren't we all?
Can I buy Basketball Cthulhu a drink? Like, can I? What do I have to do to make this better? Do we have to sacrifice something or someone? I mean, John Paxson's on the list if we need to.
Someone.
Are you putting your name on the list, or are you asking if
I'm
one
not
of us
volunteering
will?
as tribute here.
I'm just trying to get.
I'm just willing
full
to do
picture.
what's necessary to get a
Okay,
championship.
I see.
This is what happens when we go past an hour. We get into demon-sanctioned sacrifices. It's not great.
Hello says in the chat, remember when Lindsey never heard of Cthulhu? I don't know. Is that like a dig at me? Like, is Cthulhu that big?
No,
it could just
I
be an
didn't know what
honest
it was.
question as far as, well, I mean, I knew what it was, but it could just be an honest question. Like,
From Hello?
remember the days when you didn't
Do
know
you
what
not
this
know?
was?
Hello, Gerald?
I mean, it could be.
No,
I also love that Gerald
Hello is our
casually went,
biggest-
I knew what it was.
Yeah. Hello comes after Lindsay's head
Hello
every
is
single
literally
show.
all of us towards each other on an everyday basis, and I
Yeah.
love you for it. I do. It's hilarious.
Can we go back to the chat here? You
I
can
mean, we're here-
highlight whatever you want.
I mean, we're
Jacob.
here right now and we're seeing random shit in the chat. So go ahead, throw out your most random shit. Maybe we'll comment on it.
Somebody said, hate Espo must be really fun to hang out with. Not.
All right, let's round things out with some picks on the DraftKings Sportsbook app for tonight's games. So I got an email from the DraftKings Sportsbook app earlier today that gave me it's an NBA Superstar Super Boost. So I can get LeBron, Curry, and Embiid all to score 20 or more points tonight, boosted to plus 100 for free. I get to claim that like boost for free on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. But what are you guys thinking? Do you have any picks of the week for opening night specifically?
Oh, Warriors by at least 15 tonight.
Okay. Espo, you got anything?
I will take the Warriors, and I'll also take Sir Charles not to know who he play for when they do that tonight, because you know it's coming up. He's not going to know anybody.
I think the legitimate ones are pretty good picks. And I also think if you have the DraftKings Sportsbook app already, if you're a user of theirs, you should definitely check your email if you haven't, because now that the NBA season is back, they're going to send out some of these like odds boost things like I had just mentioned, and they want you to have more fun on their app. So make sure that if you don't have notifications turned on for those emails, you turn them on, because it's a great way to get a few extra perks from the app. If you are not a customer on the DraftKings Sportsbook app, highly recommend you download it and sign up using the promo code PHNX, because when you use that promo code, new customers can make any $5 NBA moneyline bet and get $200 in free bets if your team wins. You can also boost your winnings up to 100% with DraftKings stepped up same game parlays. It's super simple, so download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use promo code PHNX. Again, that's promo code PHNX on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. All right, guys. Are you excited? Tomorrow's the day.
Meh.
Man,
I'm excited.
I'm
Damn.
just glad
So
we get
when are you going to
basketball.
be excited? You
I'll be
weren't
excited
excited for the
when
preseason. You said you were going to be excited for the regular season. When are you actually going to
We're
be
not
excited?
to the regular season yet. Tomorrow we will be excited. Saul will be excited.
She asked you if you're excited for tomorrow. You're just reserving until tomorrow
Yes.
arrives to get excited.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
I conserve my energy. I had damn sure not wasting it on preseason. I hate preseason. I
We
hate
know
everything about preseason. I hate everything about practice. We're talking about practice.
Oh,
Saul's
man.
not going to be excited until the playoffs.
Probably not.
God,
It's
this is
probably
going to
true.
make for really.
This is
Yeah,
going to
we're
make a
gonna have the
really
most-
post-game shows,
long
Lindsey.
Oh, we got some
time.
fun things in the post game this season that we've already been kind of strategizing, so it should make it fun to watch.
Yeah, and just a reminder, especially if you are new to our show, during the season, basically how it works is we will do a pregame show 30 minutes before tip-off, and then after the final buzzer, within 5 to 7-ish minutes, we'll be live again with a postgame show. And then days where we do not have a game, for the most part, we will be live at 3 p.m. So that's kind of the Cliff Notes schedule of sorts. We'll put out schedules kind of in the Discord and on social media and whatnot throughout the week, just so you guys have somewhere to kind of plan ahead. But always know we do a pre-game and a post-game show for every single game, home and away. And it's going to be a lot of fun this year. And we hope to see you guys at all of those shows.
Also, come out to our event. That would be fantastic, especially if you're a member right now. We have a takeover that is in full force right now. We're gonna go party with 50 Suns fans. That's just how that's gonna go, and we're all probably gonna wear the same dumb shit. So here we go.
$75. You're gonna
Yep.
get a ticket to the game. You're gonna get
A
free
buffet.
beers, a buffet at the Ainsworth, giveaways, and much more.
And we
Saul,
do have vegetarian options.
and Saul will even sign your forehead.
Heyo.
Yeah, I sure will.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. If you're here in the chat, be sure to hit the like button on your way out, because it helps us a lot. Until we see you guys tomorrow, you can follow me on Twitter at LindseySmithAZ. You can follow Saul at Saul_Bookman. You can follow Gerald at Gerald Bourget. And of course, you can follow Espo at Espo. Espo, take us home.
Basketball is back. Screw the noise, because right now, the Phoenix Suns are still the best team in the NBA. So
never gonna let go. PHNX though, Lindsey, Gerald, Espo. Saul pass the ball, we here to turn up the tempo. Got to understand me, I'll always rep the family. Rally in the valley like Dan G, no plan B. Always on the job, my team move like the mob. Turn the